And we're on from the stormy weathers of Boulder Creek.
Say, kids, what time is it?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
And we're coming on to you from a storm up in the mountains of Santa Cruz.
Yeah, and already our internet is acting kind of flaky, so
Yeah.
I apologize in
Recording
advance.
They came back. We're back.
We're back.
So weird things might happen today, and it's not our fault.
That's right. We're doing everything we can, but the wind is trying to wipe us off the mountain, so...
I wouldn't be surprised. It's so windy out there that I wouldn't be surprised that Boulder Creek has no power. But because we're off grid.
We're holding on by the skin of our teeth.
Yeah. The only thing that we're connecting is from this narrow beam between us and Loma Prieta, 20 miles away.
Right.
There's apparently a tree now between us, and it waves in the wind, cutting our bandwidth.
I'm on our Future Peak net. Is that
That's
correct?
It. That's
okay.
That's the
the
beam.
one we're hoping.
That's the beam to
That's the one we're
Loma
holding on
Prieta.
to. Let's introduce our guests from Costa Rica. Can you believe it?
Yeah, we have a Costa Rican connection today.
Hi, Bobby.
Bobby.
Hi, Courtney.
Hi.
Hello.
This is Courtney.
Courtney,
Hi.
welcome to the show.
Nice
But
to
I
meet you.
can't really say I'm Costa Rican.
But you are from
She's
Costa
actually
Rica.
from Pescadero.
Oh, Pescadero. Okay, so from one of our neighbors.
Wow. Well, you guys
Yes,
picked a
yeah.
good week to go to Costa Rica. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's been rainy and stormy and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm happily not there.
Yes. Now, tell us a little bit about you guys and your journey. Is this purely recreational, or do you come to Costa Rica a lot? What's your story?
Yeah, what brings you there, Bobby?
Well, Courtney has a place here. She's just built a new, beautiful house, just yards from the coast.
Ah,
And all around is jungle, and there's all these animals. We saw these purple parrot things. What
Or the macaws, scarlet macaws.
Scarlet macaws. There was
Ah.
groups of them flying. They have crocodiles and black leopards here, or some
There are jaguar, but
jaguar.
you also heard, and you might hear in the near future, the howler monkeys. There's a whole band of them that live right here on the property.
wow.
And toucans, and you name it, we got it.
Nice. And so are you near the volcano? Are you in the north?
You say
Are
by
they-
the coast? Which coast? Is the Pacific or
coast?
the Caribbean?
This is the South Pacific side. So when you look at the map of Costa Rica on the Pacific side, there's two peninsulas that are notorious. The northern one is the Nicoya Peninsula, which many people go visit.
Mhm.
And this is the Osa Peninsula, which a significant portion of the land here is protected. So it's a protected jungle. So there's very little infrastructure down this way. That's why there are so many wild animals. 4 species of monkeys will come through the yard.
Wow.
There is a tapir in the neighborhood. It's amazing.
Wow. And are you an environmentalist,
So we're
Courtney?
right, I'm not, but I do love living as close to nature as possible. That's why Pescadero, obviously, whether you like it or not, you're in nature. But down here, I love to come because I am so surrounded by nature and run by the tides, the winds. When the sun comes up, sun goes down. There's no calendar grid in my brain. It's completely removed. And time just is what it is as long as I'm here.
Great. Is it warm water out there close to your house?
Warm water. So the Pacific Ocean, we're right on the Gulf of Costa Rica, close to the Pacific Ocean. So there's a lot of surf down here. The ocean is beautifully warm and refreshing. And so close to the equator, it's pretty hot.
Yeah. When we landed at the airport, at the port of Jimenez, you could look to the south, and the second mountains over were from Panama, the Panama Mountains.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're very, very south.
You're within visual sight of the Panama Mountains, huh? Amazing. That's great. Yeah, we're looking at a map here.
Yeah, there's a big bay that looks like it comes in quite far into Costa Rica,
Yeah.
down the southern part.
Yes.
And so
Yes,
you're in
and then
that,
whole-
you're south of
whole
that bay.
peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that whole peninsula you see it. We're on the southern edge of it, on the right where the Gulf and the ocean meet.
Wow, what a beautiful place to be.
Pavonis?
Pavonis is across the bay.
Okay.
Yeah, Porto Art near Limon.
Port Jimenez.
Limon is on the East Coast. So as a bird flies, that's not far, but to drive there, you can't go through the mountains. You have to go up and around. And
Oh, I see. Yeah, so you're on the Pacific. Well, it's all the Pacific, but you're on the west side. Is that right? Of the peninsula?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Wow, beautiful. It looks very remote.
So how did you get from there to here? I mean, here to there, excuse me. That's quite a shift from the Santa Cruz mountain area, Pescadero, to Costa Rica. Is this a permanent change, or is this temporarily for a vacation for a while and then you retire there, or what's the story?
That's a really good question. I'm still trying to figure that all out. But I originally discovered Costa Rica many years ago when I was a student, and I studied at the Universidad de Costa Rica in San Jose. And so I've always come back. And there's been a lot of growth and a lot of change. And so I just kept going further and further away from that. And that's how I discovered this area, the Osa Peninsula. And, you know, I had to sell my house up in Half Moon Bay. And so I had a little money. So we were able to buy a little land. And my one criteria for investing in land down here and building a house was that we build one for some locals to live on the property as well. Because just like everywhere in the world, foreigners come in, buy up the land, drive up the prices. The locals can't live there anymore. So I just, in my gut, I couldn't feel good about buying land, building on it, and just being another gringo that has pushed out the locals.
Really? So that's interesting.
That
so how does it work? Do you share the land together with a local family?
Yeah. So we had some local friends, and we just had, made sure we had enough money to build them a house first, because they were stuck living in a kind of a scrappier area with their baby, tons of traffic. And
that's
so it's
cool.
really good to get them back to Osa where they belonged. So we built them a house first, and they live on the property, raise their son, and they're just a beautiful, sweet family. And they're respectful. They live here and we live here, and we just kind of are friends.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
beautiful.
That is so beautiful.
And lucky, the father of the family is an amazing woodworker and builder. So we've been hiring him sort of nonstop, because
that's a real win-win there then. That's great. That's good. So everyone's helping everybody.
It's just like a pure example of just letting go and doing something beyond what you think you possibly can do. And the rewards are just ridiculous. It's so wonderful.
So what's your average day like there?
Average day is wake up. The Howler monkeys wake us up at 5 a.m. They do their first alarm at 4 a.m. and I just roll over because I'll wait for the second alarm, which is 5 a.m. Make some good local coffee in the traditional sock. There's a traditional sock method. And then if the weather is good, I'll pick up my paddleboard and go walk the 200 steps to the ocean and, go paddleboard with my partner, or he goes up surfing and I'll go for a long beach hike. It's sort of like whatever weather, the wind, and the tide will tell me what to do.
Wow. Beautiful.
What an inspiring story, Courtney. So glad you brought Courtney to meet us today, Bobby. It's
how
really nice
how did you guys connect? What's your connection?
We met through this yoga teacher's name, Arkady, and Courtney was his best student and was demonstrating all the yoga moves and everything. And we've been following her for many years, at least 15 years or so.
Yeah.
So when we talked to her a little earlier, she said, she's living down here. And she says, we're only going to be here for 2 months out of the year. And so she said, if you come, we got to come now. And so we came.
Jumped on it.
Timing is everything. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Yeah. And is the reason you're there for 2 months just to do with the surf season, or is there some other constraints you are aware of?
Yes, the major constraint is work. And so I have a little tiny shop up in Pescadero where I make organic soaps and skin creams and whatnot. And this is the slow season. No one's coming to Pescadero except the rain this time of year. So I have I'm just open on the weekends, and I have someone running the shop while I'm gone, but I'm the only one that can make the 50 products that I sell. So I need to go back as life picks up again. I have a healthy internet business and walk-in. So I got to get back.
The product is a
hands-on.
The product is a hands-on operation. Sounds like. Wow.
Yes, I can't do that online, unfortunately.
Right.
But
good for you.
Yeah.
Wow. A modern entrepreneur.
Well,
Sounds great.
I would imagine being in the jungle and all the compounds that exist there, you're probably getting all kinds of ideas for new types of products.
Oh, completely. Like one of the main things I've planted so far, and you can't really plant right now because it's considered the dry season, which is like summer.
Yeah.
So in May, June, July, that's the planting season. But I was able last year to get a couple of shampoo gingers in the ground. And so I'm waiting for those to blossom. And I've already learned about, those amazing leaves to make a tea, which is highly antioxidant, great for cancer. And,
Wow.
going to probably dry and ground a bunch of those and bring them home, put them in skin creams and soaps. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
there's so many plants here that are, this is the land of ylang ylang. They grow lemongrass here. There's so many things. So it's definitely, this is just the first, because we just, built the house, and then the garden will be next. But this is a good, establishment of creating the space for all of that. But in the meantime, there's so much to
Oh,
learn
beautiful.
before planting.
That's great. We've been to Costa Rica several times, and I just love how lush it is there. And I love that it's the country that does not support a standing army and yet has maintained peace all of these years. Something very special about Costa Rica.
Yeah, knocking on wood.
And the jungle. I remember
Yes,
we were on a
definitely.
river rafting trip down the water, and Son had a problem with her asthma. It's just going
boy.
crazy.
Yeah, many years ago, I guess in like 95 or something like that, we had an amazing encounter with a forest shaman.
Yeah, he came out of the woods riding on a horse just as we needed something for her
We were
breathing.
camping
Yes.
along the river with our friends, and one of them had invited him because they were friends. And he, besides being a forest shaman, was also kind of in his spare time an advisor to a lot of international pharmaceutical companies about the medicinal properties of plants in the rainforest, which was his traditional knowledge.
which is rich in
And
compounds.
so he gave us a lecture about these traditional remedies in the rainforest. He took a giant leaf off a tree and told us it was good for hangovers. And he gave us another
Yes.
Practical knowledge, really
yes,
practical
things that were good for
blood flow issues and,
things like that.
Yeah.
And for me, he actually did a pulse test. I think it was one of the very first times I'd ever been pulse tested for the subtle pulses like a Chinese doctor might do. He deduced that I had a milk allergy and that I needed to stop drinking milk, which I did for probably about 15 years. And sure enough, within a week, my postnasal drip that had just characterized my entire life, I didn't even realize that it wasn't normal, disappeared. And
I love
his
Yeah.
knowledge of health just amazed me.
So our
And he
experience.
cured me of a terrible asthma attack that I was having.
Yes, and we have video of him coming out of the jungle. The jungle was the food of the gods.
Yeah. And this happens to have been one of our very, very first internet postings, our internet articles.
Yeah, it's beginning
it was,
of that.
in
So
a-
Costa Rica is firm memories and magic, just incredible. So it's neat that you're
I
down
love
there.
that.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you're down there. And the West Coast, I think we stayed at a resort right on the water that was phenomenal. The birds would just come right up to you. They
near the Arenal volcano. Yeah, we stayed
that
in
was
a
also there too.
little
That was,
hotel down there.
So yeah, we have fond memory of that. And we have another friend who has an eco facility down there that we've been invited to.
Oh, yeah. You may be seeing that yourself.
It was at your
sometime
party,
soon,
Bobby, last
Bobby.
week, and then your 70th birthday party.
Yeah, Sasha, it sounds like he might be going down to visit it and telling you.
Stessa's place.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's Tessa's
Yeah.
place. She
Not too
has a
far from
place
you.
here in Costa Rica.
Her
Uh-huh.
son,
Yeah,
her
big
son
time.
inherited
Wow.
it from his father.
Yeah, so maybe it's right nearby.
Wow. Okay.
Do you know where that is?
I have never been there, but
No, but we'll send you the
I-
information.
Yeah, we can look it
Yes.
up after the show and send you some links.
Absolutely.
And just other interesting links. Do you know Mark Henson and his wife Monty? Mark
It's
and Monty?
it's an American visionary artist. You probably know them.
Was he at Burning Man?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
oh yeah. He was a
yeah,
burner.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
has been to many a Whole Life Expo, and his art, you probably have seen a lot of his art because many people in the Bay Area have purchased prints and clothing and even originals. And the reason I bring it up is because back in the day, before they bought their dream home in Northern California about 10 years ago, they actually had a tea farm in Costa Rica, and I believe it was Satori tea.
Satori.
Yeah.
Oh, just another message of Billy. Billy Sunshine says he's got property in Costa Rica and some raw land there, Liberia. And I said, feel free to pitch a tent there if you want. I don't know where that is, but
Anyway, it's beautiful country down there. I'm very happy for you guys.
yeah.
Good for you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
But one question though is, how was the trip? Does it take a lot to get there?
It didn't take me very long, but it took Bobby much longer.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You missed your flight, I heard, right?
Would you have to go up to
What
Newark
happened?
to go to Miami and then over to Costa Rica or something like that?
Our flight was supposed to go to LAX and have the connecting flight from LAX to San Jose in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
We were late for that, and it was by the same airlines. And so we got to the airport like 2 hours in advance, and then because of the weather or something, and the plane didn't come in for 2 hours, we missed that flight. So they put us, instead of Alaska, they put us on United Airlines to Newark, New Jersey. And then we got there at midnight, and then the flight out was like 5 or 6 in the morning to San Jose, Costa Rica from there. So anyway, it added another 12, 18
my
hours
God.
to the trip. And so it kind of
12
delayed
hours.
a couple things on the way.
Wow.
That's significant.
Crazy.
Wow. But from LA.
In a perfect world,
Yeah.
it could take 8 hours to get to San Jose, or 7 hours to get to San Jose, Costa Rica. And then you either can take a 45-minute flight basically 2 miles away, or you can take a 6-hour drive.
I see. So it takes you a day to get there,
Yeah, so-
but then once you're there, you're happy.
Yes.
Yes. This morning we took this little 12-seat jumper flight,
Yeah.
and it flew over the mountains and along the coast down south, and you were flying over jungles and mountains. It was amazing,
Wow.
But there's just two little pilots in the front. They're young guys, and but when we were flying over the mountains, the plane was like a kite with a heavy wind or something. The wings would like rattle back and forth, We were going and grabbing me by the leg, and I never heard her squeeze so hard on me. Like she was like,
You got a bruise?
white knuckles. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, well, flying is definitely an adventure.
Yeah.
Glad you guys made it safely.
Last time I flew, I think it was a 5-hour trip nonstop to Maui on a 757. So it was pretty easy compared to what you guys are doing. It sounds like an adventure.
Yeah.
Yep, there aren't any monkeys on Maui.
Oh, that's true. We don't have monkeys on Maui,
No.
except the humankind. That's about it. No. Every place has its magic, and it sounds to me though that once you're there, you're going to just hang out there for a while. Like, how long are you staying down there for?
Until next Monday. Yeah.
Next Monday. Huh?
We're leaving Monday.
Oh, are you coming back here, or are you going to travel around a little bit down there? Or visit the
No,
Panama
we're just gonna
Canal,
go back
take a
home.
look at controversies about?
Yeah, the Panama. That's interesting. Yeah, I think we're trying to take over Panama again.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it'll be another American town before long.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. The stories that we're hearing we're good friends with Michael Zwirling and his beloved Amy. And Amy is an American citizen, but
Yes.
she originally came from China. And so she tracks China news very closely. And she just this morning sent us a link about the tariffs and the imposition of tariffs for various policy changes. But one of the things that she told us about Panama, she's a world traveler. She travels quite extensively every year. And she
Behind the scenes
says
information.
that for the last several years, every time an American ship goes through Panama, the price has been going up and up and up. And the last time that she sailed through, she said it cost her ship $80,000 more than it had cost her 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to get a lot more information about things that have been off our radar about how the United States has been assuming a lot of economic burdens over the last few years and how there's going to be some pushback now.
And part of the idea is that the Panamanians weren't particularly into the administration skill sets necessary for the canal. Hence, the Chinese are more suitable for that kind of sensibility.
I hear that Chinese are controlling that.
Well, and I think
passage.
that when Jimmy Carter gave the canal back to Panama, there was kind of a global attitude in the world that countries should rule their own regions. Like self-rule was a good idea.
Decentralized power.
And also, I believe it was in the early 90s before Hong Kong was taken back by China. And because of that, probably Jimmy Carter felt like Hong Kong was already a democratic free port in Asia and very qualified to run the Panama Canal in a friendly way. And they were not expecting there to be difficulties with China back in the day. And maybe there's still just a lot of media hype to poise the conversation for the changes that are coming. But I think it really has become the case that China has exerted its control not just over the Hong Kong ports, but over the ports controlled by the Hong Kong merchants. And the United States finds that that's not in our national interest. So they're trying to push back.
Right. Yeah, because it's known that China does buy these 100-year leases for certain ports of major countries in the Pacific or in the Indian Ocean. And they want to control the shipping trades through that. And so what they do is they come in and they claim, we're going to build this whole new port and it's not going to cost you anything. You have to give us a lease for this port, right? Then they bring in the military there and it becomes a separate Chinese compound that's in these parts of Indonesia, for instance.
And I'm sure that's not that different than American policy since World War II. Things have their rise and their fall. And that sounds very familiar in terms of we used to have ports like that in the Philippines, for example.
I asked Grok, what kind of control does China really have over the Panama Canal?
What does Grok say?
Several things. First of all, China does not have direct control over the Panama Canal. Ownership and management is actually the Republic of Panama, managed by the Panama Canal Authority, ACP, which was established under Panamanian law, and that the U.S. relinquished control in 1999 as per the Torrijos-Carter treaties. And so the Chinese investment, however, is a Hong Kong company, part of C.K. Hutchinson Holdings, controlled by a Hong Kong billionaire named Li Kangxing, who has huge investments in Panama and especially the ports at both ends of the canal, Balboa and the Cristobal. And those are the major points for ships to load and unload before or after going across the canal. But this is not control over the canal itself, but rather control over the port and whatever goes on.
Well, I mean, if
port.
you control the entry and the exit, you pretty much control it.
Well, it's kind of a control. Yeah, I guess you can say that. And also, this is part of China's broader strategy, which includes the Belt and Road Initiative. And the idea is that they want better global trade routes.
Yeah, but the Belt and Road is from mainland China through
to the rest of the world,
to Europe.
To the rest of the world. At this point, it's the world.
It's on the continent.
It's planetary infrastructure for resources.
Right.
And the ports are a big part of that.
Well, maybe they are talking about a belt around the world at the equator.
Well, shipping is big.
Yeah.
Personally, I would, where you are, I would think more about playing with the monkeys. Because simian intelligence is quite amazing. And it teaches a lot about ourselves in these little critters. Not that we're just monkeys, but we do have a certain amount of affinity with them. And to be around them wild like that might be interesting. The curiosity, I think about how we could communicate better with other species. And, to being around other species that we're kind of more related to, just hanging out with them could be an interesting experience.
It's very sweet.
Do they come to the house? I mean, do you actually feed the monkeys?
I have a picture when I wasn't here of the people who live on our land. Their 1-year-old son holding out a banana and a monkey grabbing the banana from his hand. So they do come around for sure. And I think it has a lot to do with their resources. Supposedly they don't like papaya, but there's a time of year they will come eat it if there's a nourishment they're missing by way of the seasons. So it's really interesting. there are comings and goings, and there are monkey highways that go through the property, and they're always on the move looking for probably water and food, just like the rest of us.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah, and they get along with the panthers, jaguars, because we have the mountain lions here, which is, I guess, the closest in Santa Cruz
Right.
Society here.
Right. I'm sure that they do, and there's a lot of dogs here. There's so many dogs, and the monkeys don't seem to have a problem with barking dogs. And, this time of year, because it is considered summer, there's not a lot of rain. There's a lot of construction going on. That doesn't seem to faze the monkeys. They kind of just roll however they want to.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Do you have chickens that just run around there? In Maui, there's a lot of chickens everywhere, but I suspect if you're more in the jungle, you'll have more predators for chickens.
Yes, there's more snakes that like to eat the chickens. I would love to have them, I think, but that would take an endeavor. You really have to keep track of them. But there are these wild turkey-looking things that are beautiful. Huh. And I was on a trail the other day, and I saw one nesting just right out there on the ground. And so I thought that was really interesting. So there's a lot of fowl, a lot of birds, and they seem to be thriving.
Yeah. You said reptiles as well? There were snakes there?
Yeah, snakes, iguanas, lizards, boa constrictors. Wow. There's the famed fer-de-lance, which is one of the more dangerous snakes. But again, they're always looking for water too. So when it's rainy, you might find them around on your property because there's plenty of water. But when there's no rain, they kind of retract to go wherever the creeks are, wherever there is water flow. Oh. So it's safer right this time of year.
Do you have crocodiles and alligators down there?
We sure do. There's always crocodile stories. Huh. But again, they mate during, I think I have to look again, I think it's May to June or July down here. So that's when they might be more aggressive and more on the prowl. But again, this time of year, I think they also sort of retract to the creeks wherever they are,
Billy's asking, scorpions? You have scorpions? I guess he doesn't like scorpions.
There was one in my yoga mat, actually. I had it rolled up on the porch, and I brought it in, and I should have shaken it out there. Didn't even think about it, but in came a scorpion. But they're not as treacherous here as they are in the U.S. They sting, but it's not like, it's just going to be painful for a little while. They're pretty small. They're very fast. Yeah. But that was the first time I've ever seen one.
Wow.
Do you speak Spanish yourself?
I used to be fluent when I went to the Universidad of Costa Rica, and they say that when you give birth, the placenta is your brain leaving your body. Spanish with my two babies, I think. I take online courses, and I have my translator app because it's really important to me to speak Spanish while I'm here. There's a lot of people that live here that don't, and it just, because of the example of you meeting the healer coming out of the forest, the jungle on his horseback, there are people like that all over, and they're just precious. And to be able to speak their language and be able to have a conversation or learn a little something, it is so magical. And so it's learning languages, it's such a key to unlock so many great doors. So I've been working on it, and I suck at it, but I'm
that's
trying
right.
to get it back.
I think Bobby's got an idea for a universal translator you might play with.
Yeah. Well, and of course, all of these Duolingo apps, these conversational practice apps are lifesavers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I really love to I'll be walking on the beach and I'll try and think in Spanish, and I'll be like, okay, wait, what if I want to ask this question, how do I ask it? And so I have one of those app translator things, and I'll go home and I'll write it in English, and it'll come up in Spanish. I'll go, okay, I was right. So then it just kind of, it helps remind me too of what I already know, and just adds in these other words that I've forgotten.
Sure.
What would you think of, say, wearing a pair of glasses, and then when someone's speaking through the glasses, you see subtitles? Would that be?
Yeah.
Would you like that?
That would be interesting.
So it's like it turns the world into a movie, essentially, with subtitles. So, but you'd understand. What's being said.
Then you have to have the glasses all the time. What if you want?
Yeah.
It's then we get it's getting addicted to. Do I really want to carry my translating phone around at the beach? No, I don't. In fact.
Well, you could challenge yourself, by just.
We've got such amazing powerful brain. We have to.
Yeah, no, I see your point. I see your point.
Yeah, our winds are kicking up and our internet is getting a little dicey. We're getting a few warnings, it gets a little choppy. But so listen, folks, we're supposed to go to a bottom of the hour break for our Santa Cruz Voice sponsors. So how about everybody hang tight for the next 2 minutes, get some water, do something like that. And
we'll be back. We got some stories to go over as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And whatever else comes up from our audience. Yeah, we're an interactive show, so who knows exactly what's going to happen, but we have an agenda and we're not going to stick to it, but we have one.
And we'll give out the number for phone calls. Let's see.
Yeah. It's really wonky weather here, so
why don't you give out the text? If people want to get in touch, they should send us a text. And that way
you want to text us 831 area code 338-7228.
All right.
338-7228. Text us there.
All right, folks, we're going to be right back and enjoy the next couple minutes with the Future Nows.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants, and at Treehouse Dispensary, we use it to build community. In addition to dispensing cannabis and education, Treehouse hosts First Friday events every month that feature our community's local artists, makers, and activists. If you're 21 plus, join us at 3651 Soquel Drive every First Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. to enjoy the work of local artists and musicians, find one-of-a-kind gifts, and learn more about the top cannabis products in California. See you soon.
Satisfy your hunger right now with the delicious ramen and sushi you'll find waiting for you at Kaito. Easy in and out location in the Capitola Mall food court. Special orders welcome. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
This is Koji. I'm looking forward to seeing you at my restaurant, Kaito.
Satisfy your hunger with the fresh, prepared, twice-daily grab-and-go sushi you'll find waiting for you at Sushi Market Sprouts, 2 blocks from the beach at 300 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
Hello, I'm Junko, and I look forward to serving you at the Sushi Market Sprouts.
Listen and be heard. You can support one of America's first local news and talk streaming radio stations, SantaCruzVoice.com. Your support will help build the Voice's streaming infrastructure and maintain the programming of its 34 local broadcasters. Your support will help build a radio station that you will be truly proud of. Please go to SantaCruzVoice.com and click support. Thank you.
The pharmacy used to love me. With monthlyfeerx.com, I pay one small monthly fee for all of my meds. If you pay more than $20 a month, check out monthlyfeerx.com. If your family spends more than $30 a month, check out monthlyfeerx.com. Thanks to monthlyfeerx.com, I now have the extra money to go out and do fun things. monthlyfeerx.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Mrs. Future.
I'm still here.
Welcome back, Bobby, in Costa Rica.
There we go.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
It'll be much harder when you're on Mars.
Let me see if I could.
So, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, we're hearing a lot about how Elon Musk is delving deeply into government records and contracts and databases. And I wanted to say a few words on that whole topic. And you had some insights into this as well. I know there's been a lot of criticism of him doing this, that he's using a crack team of geeks that he worked with, hackers that worked with Twitter.
Bright minds who helped him improve Twitter over the last few years.
Yeah, and of course the mainstream media has been derailing them to some extent.
What are all these people doing looking at private financial records? Meaning, like, what are we doing looking at unaudited government accounts that should have been public and should have been audited for the last 20 years? But now that we have a skillful crack programming team looking at them, suddenly it's a problem.
$40 billion sitting in USAID in cash.
Yeah, when they start disclosing what the money has been spent on, it is shocking. It is so annoying the way that the government has been squandering our tax money.
Well, it's been controlled by the same group of folks for a while, right? So, and it's one of those things people don't want to let go of.
Yes. Before it would be the secret space program or these other black operations.
Oh yeah, the $100,000 hammer, right?
Yes, those kind of things. The Treasury was hacked by the Chinese a month ago anyway, and they know what was going on.
Hey, yeah, maybe these hackers can prevent us from being harmed by those hackers.
Right, you see, so the intelligence agencies know what's going on anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, we did a lot of research this morning into a couple of the Silicon Valley Intelligence Agency
Yeah, it's kind of the next guard of national security that's unfolding.
And we're talking about, of course, Anduril Industries and Palantir Technologies.
Right, next gen stuff. And that's probably where Elon's going to put his attention soon. But right now, he's creating quite a bit of controversy just by looking into USAID and Treasury Department. And wait till he gets into defense. You're going to see people jump in terms of the amount of money that's being spent for things.
Yeah, Elon posted a meme today on X that was a picture of Dr. Evil, or let's see, what's his name? The comedian in...
Mike Myers?
Yeah, Mike Myers, right. Mike Myers as Dr. Evil talking about how the new name for money laundering is foreign aid.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was interesting was, I think when Tulsi Gabbard was explaining how Obama had actually funded Al-Qaeda in 2017, it was
earlier than that.
Long before that.
Yeah,
much earlier than that. Yeah. Anyway, so it's very interesting how our money is being used without our knowledge, and it's not used the way we thought it was being used.
Yeah,
sure, and actually funding the people that could harm us, and so it's very strange. I think it's good to shine the light on these things, and also as far as health, I think what Nicole Shanahan wanted to do was have point AI at the CDC and also the FDA and all the health records and studies that could help people. Because, it's all locked up. And until you shine the light in there, there could be answers to a lot of problems and health problems, but it's buried inside the CDC. And so we have to have exposure to all these.
Yeah, that's the transparency in government is finally beginning to happen.
Yeah, and people like us who have been pro-transparency all the time and have really been thrown under the bus during these last few administrations of elitist rule and decisions behind closed doors, just trust us, we're the good guys kind of policymakers, have brought us to an era where you cannot make sense of what is being broadcast in the public media because there's no accountable authorities. You can't tell who's telling the truth. You can't tell who's lying. And everybody seems to be free to make up their own facts. And so I just want to make a little pitch here that what Elon Musk and the people defending free speech through X and through long-form podcasts like Joe Rogan, what we are calling for is community notes and public scrutiny of transparent information inside of free speech to determine what is believable and what is not bureaucratic censorship. And that is really the fight of our lives that's going on right now. Are we Americans going to be free to scrutinize the original data ourselves, or are we going to be turned into a republic of experts where we get to tell the media which experts we're going to believe, but we don't get to look at the information ourselves? So I'm all in for let's get transparency in the real information, not censors.
So do you trust an Elon to do that?
I do. I've been an Elon groupie this whole time. Every human, of course, can do things that are unprincipled, and certainly if there's no checks and balances, anybody in powerful positions can do things that are an abuse of power. But I trust him based on many years of saying that he is dedicated to being pro-human, being pro-free speech.
Okay, all right. I get you. You're an Elon fan, girl.
Yeah.
But, well, so am I.
You are too. Okay. Well, somebody's got to take up that because He just posted this thing about liberals. He says, picture of a madman from the 50s having a drink, smiling and saying, I haven't seen liberals this upset since yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
I like the one you were doing about earlier about Dr. Evil with his quotes, fingers on the air saying, from now on, money laundering will be called foreign aid.
Yeah.
Oh, what about this one? He just posted yesterday a picture of the lizard. It says, how many countries tax their citizens and send money to the United States?
As in, how many people in the United States are being taxed to send money to Ukraine, to Israel, to everybody around the world who's getting all kinds of money from USAID, USAID.
Yeah, I mean, everything is out of phase.
To develop COVID research in Wuhan,
yeah.
Right? That's our tax money at work for the world here.
So what narrative is most real? I guess we'll find out, I guess, as this information is revealed. But I think part of looking at Elon's motives, and it's a fair thing to do, to really look at to see how maybe this amount of power might actually corrupt him. You have to be aware that that's a possibility. And one of those ways to look at it is when it becomes close to his own self-interests, which is the financing of his corporations like Tesla and SpaceX connected with the military, because the military budget is huge. Right, and that's where almost half of our money goes, and that's where there's probably a lot of both future-oriented stuff and a lot of possible pork barrel material in that world. And so we'll find out. What I have noticed is that Elon tends to favor the newer companies that are representing the defense industry, the Anduril and
Tech Bros.
Palantir.
I mean, it's a cliche, right? He's an engineer, and of course, he favors engineering solutions to human problems.
Well, yeah, and Palantir was co-founded by Peter Thiel, who was a significant investor in and board member in Anduril as well.
And also in J.D. Vance.
Everybody's in PayPal.
Yes.
They met.
Yeah, the both of them,
Mafia.
Elon and Peter Thiel both came out of PayPal.
Yeah.
That was their first billion. I remember in the early days after PayPal, when Elon had just gotten involved in SpaceX, he said, how do you become a millionaire? Well, first you become a billionaire and then you invest in space.
yeah. Well, but defense is a different story here. There's big money in defense.
Yeah.
Now, both
and that's the other thing is in terms of the government Office of Efficiency, the Office of Government Efficiency, Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
Yeah.
He used to come and with SpaceX, he would try and submit a bid to get NASA contracts, and he was bidding against.
Yeah, and he was the underdog back then.
The old boys club.
Yeah.
And
Boeing
basically
got the contracts. Lockheed Martin.
He was not allowed to make bids because people were doing no bid contracts instead of competitive bidding where they're supposed to take the lowest bidder. And he had to sue to be able to submit bids to get government business.
Yeah, I know. He was on the underdog.
He was. And so he is very familiar with how the government operates and distributes money to its cronies. And he's very much interested in
he's going to disassemble
leveling that system so that it's fair again.
Yeah, we got that.
I don't think people got that. If you listen to the mainstream media, you'd think that he's the biggest gangster who's going to take away all our privacy now that he's looking at our financial records.
Well, from that point of view, you're right. But from my point of view, I knew that.
Well, I just feel you have to put out the counter narrative.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Well, a lot of people didn't know that in the beginning yet. He was trying to do competitive bidding and he would undercut, he would have the better bid, but he would not get the project money for that. We all went to Boeing and Lockheed Martin, all the big boys.
Yeah, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld were very involved in deciding who would get the contract and deciding how much money was going to be spent without the bidding process factoring into it.
And to show you what an interesting different world it is, Anduril is focused on technologies like just take a look at the wall, for example, the southern wall. Anduril's approach would be to use drones and electronic eavesdropping equipment to monitor motion across the border rather than actually to build a wall.
Right. Yeah. Build a surveillance wall.
An electronic wall, if you will.
Yeah, because then you can just send a chopper out to get the people rather than having all this hardware in the way.
Yeah, or not even that. You would just send drones out, identify them, know who they are, whether or not there are any known aliases or criminals, that sort of thing, and then send out the right people to pick them up. And Palantir is known for its data analytics platforms and intelligence analysis. Their software would be combined with Andurel's actual technology. It's drones, it's autonomous systems, it's surveillance equipment, who would be looking at border security from that point of view. Mm-hmm. And the combination of the two are going to be the new defense systems that they're looking at. Mm-hmm. It's collaborative contracts. So there's going to be big money in that. It's going to be pouring from the old boys club. And that's where you're going to see a lot of narratives coming out that will really be hitting Musk hard, as he delves into the Department of Defense.
Yeah. People who are still just getting their news from television are not going to be getting the same story as people who have switched over to the internet. So
so keep an eye open on that.
The narratives are diverging.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a minute before the next news break of Top of the Hour from Santa Cruz Voice, and then we'll be back.
Musk's vision for defense is a cheaper AI-driven defense solutions. Autonomous drones instead of manned jets. That goes with Andurel's product on autonomous systems and border security technologies is their favorite. It's very interesting motion in that direction. Non-physical defense.
Okay.
Probably a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it's safe. Yeah, the drones don't cost as much as...
We'll be back soon.
As building...
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back.
Everyone saying different things to me, different things to me.
7, 6. Okay, we got a couple of feedback comments that we're going to bring up.
Texts are coming in
before we head over to our favorite AI story of the week. But before we go there, Greg in La La Land points out that most of Palantir's contracts are no bid or single source.
Yeah, that's for now, but eventually...
That's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah.
Eventually, they will have some competition. Right now, I don't think anybody could compete with them. They're so far ahead of the game.
There's a handful of companies that are startups that are starting to come into that space.
Yeah. And of course, having the ability to bid a contract, you've got to have a lot of top security clearances and things like that if you're going to be bidding for the military. So I think it probably has to do with people being qualified to bid more than the process not allowing bids. Just an unsolicited opinion. I have not researched this, but I just think that if we look, we'll find that there aren't very many people who could compete with those folks.
However, there's more and more discussions about tech and defense, especially with an increasing trend of Silicon Valley's involvement in military applications. There's a new wave of tech companies that you're going to start seeing. And these are just the Palantir and Andurel are just two of the big ones in this movie.
Yeah. In our research of those two companies, both of them make very strong claims that they are dedicated to the United States government and our ability to use their tools to be ahead of the curve globally. And I would think that you would have to have that kind of security structure in place.
And maybe it takes this kind of security focus to establish this technology, but it's useful for so many other things. Like, for example, while you're monitoring the number of people crossing the Rio Grande, you might also notice what kind of fish are in the water, how clean is the water, what's the flow rate, that sort of thing as well. It could really be these sensors that they're putting in could be really useful for keeping track of our ecosystem and how it's changing and evolving.
Yeah. So let's hope that it's not just the military involved in all this research and that the scientists are very biosensitive.
Yeah. I believe the Andurel lattice system is also aware of whatever birds are crossing the border and what kinds of birds they are and in what direction and how many and on and on. So migration routes would be better understood. Never mind the weather, and really looking with more detail granularly about what's in the atmosphere as it flows by the sensors. Mm-hmm. And then how is all this information processed in an integrated way? They're what they call enterprise solutions. What's their enterprise solution for combining all this information? Perhaps it would be best if it's if it's government focused computers, that they funnel the right information from the various sensors to the various departments. That those that are interested in the weather, they would get the weather information. Those interested in creature migration paths would get that information. The defense people will get the information about issues of people are actually crossing the border. So it could be an integrated system that serves many departments at once.
Well, I know that it's historic times where you've got Trump telling our best friends north and south of us that he's going to increase the tariffs unless they help him protect the border. So both of them delayed the tariff increase for a month by adding more troops to the borders to keep out illegal aliens and to keep out fentanyl.
And that's to appease Trump.
That's to appease Trump. That's true. But in terms of the security, what it makes me think of is analogous to this. When we visited the Berlin Wall and we looked into the history of the Berlin Wall, originally the Berlin Wall was created during World War II as a place called Checkpoint Charlie. And it was meant to be a way of monitoring who was going back and forth between the Russian and the east and the west side of the Russian-German line. And it was not very long afterwards that they decided to stop people from being able to go back and forth rather than just writing down their names. And it wasn't much longer after that that they actually shot someone who was trying to cross the border from the east to the west.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that when you increase the security at the border, right now we think it's a wall that's going to keep immigrants out, but in the future, it actually could be a wall to keep Americans in.
Well, that's the fear. That's the fear. But, borders are, they're never going to be totally, but that certainly happened, let's say, in the Cold War. All right.
Well, the whole war mentality.
But no, I don't think we're going to go in that direction. I don't think people would put up with it. I think we're moving in a more of a real flow of both information and people. Something more like what biology does with membranes.
Well, I think that's
you're
what right,
we're doing.
But I think that's that the wall came down after it was used to keep people separated from each other.
Well, it can be used for that, and that's definitely should keep a vigilance to make sure it isn't go too far in that direction only.
Well, that's the reason I'm telling the story is the cautionary tale.
Yeah, it's the cautionary tale.
We have to stay human. We have to stay cognizant of the fact that we are one world, one planet, one humanity. We want the best for each other on all sides of every wall.
It is a big issue because national security ultimately involves species security, which is international security. And how does that all jive with each other? National security interests are often conflictual with each other, which creates a lot of the problems.
Yeah.
However,
well, me-firstism also creates problems.
Yeah, of course it does. And not have any firstisms and not have any specialization causes problems too. But I suspect that our species is going to organize itself, and it's going to be something akin to the way the body organizes itself because we're biological organisms. So we'll have a more integrated, holistic nervous system, blood supply system, immune system, that sort of thing for the species. And how exactly that goes from our national security state to that is the mystery. That's what we get to experience unfold in real time here.
Yeah.
As these new technologies connect us up.
Yeah. So let's keep the new technologies in the hands of the humans, the artists.
Yeah.
Those
ideally. But,
aspire
how many
to
artists
the
want to be in government?
greatness of
Not
humanity.
Many. Right. Does Bobby want a government job? Do you work for the government, Bobby?
Do I work for the government?
Would you? I mean, would you want to? Or are you more
I?
happy where you are?
I'm happy where I'm at.
See, there you go.
If you want security, yes. I have friends, they work in Sacramento and they work for government there, but they're all looking for a pension down the road and to be comfortable. But
retire and live in Costa Rica.
I'm more of an entrepreneur where I think I want to plan my own retirement, with my own money.
Have your own world. Yeah. By the way, how are you connecting with us down there? What's your internet connection?
Oh, yeah. He has a Starlink satellite dish here.
Oh, okay. Starlink.
Like 318 megs down. I mean, it's just like he's got really good bandwidth. Yeah.
Oh, good. Good old Starlink. Good. Okay, let's cover some of our AI stuff, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
You remember last week it was all about DeepSeek and how cheap it was to do what ChatGPT has been spending a fortune on.
Mm-hmm.
And all the stories have been coming out about how it's so expensive the way OpenAI is doing it that they're not even making money when they're charging people $200 a month for services.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough. And what business is going to survive for any length of time that costs more than $200 a month?
Per person, per customer.
Person, unless it's
Yeah.
healthcare or insurance.
Yeah, right.
So DeepSeek this week announced their image generator. This is an AI model that claims, quote, significant advancements in both multimodal understanding and text-to-image instruction following capabilities, close quote. It's called Janus Pro, Janus. Janus, I guess, like in January.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be competing with DALL-E, DALL-E, DALL-E 3, and Stable Diffusion, both U.S. rivals. DALL-E is OpenAI's package that is part of your $200 a month software access.
Right.
So this new image generator supposedly is pretty darn good. I've seen some comparisons online so far. We'll have to try it ourselves. It's looking pretty darn good.
I only have a little bit of a problem about privacy because it's the same TikTok issue. But
yeah.
If you look at some of these reviews of the privacy issues of their what's stated on their website,
right,
they are collecting a lot of data and it's going to the Chinese government, and they can use that data for third-party advertisers and track you. But what they also have is open source, which means that you could privately run this without having the information go to the internet. You could just have it run locally without connection to the internet, and you have all these great capabilities. It doesn't cost anything for you. It doesn't cost you $200 a month.
I wonder if anybody has
right now,
done something like say, hey, DeepSeek, show me which code is sending insecure information to a foreign entity and show me how I would need to remove that code from my local copy, right?
So there's a Berkeley group. It's called the Berkeley AI at University of California, Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, since they looked at DeepSeek, DeepSeek was open source, and DeepSeek claimed that they could do for $6 million. They did the same thing that ChatGPT did for hundreds of millions of dollars, right, for training.
Right.
So the Berkeley group says, hey, not only that, we can do everything that DeepSeek can do, but you can do it for $30. And they stripped out the code that was phoning home to China.
Yeah,
so
naturally. Okay, that's good.
So you can go to Hugging Face and GitHub, and you can download the Berkeley version of this thing, and it will run locally.
Well, that's good to know, Bobby. That's great. Wow.
Yeah, and it costs you less than $30. So that's what they're saying.
To own your own deep mind, huh?
Yes, you can. You own your own DeepSeek now for less than $30.
That's cool.
You're going to see these new generation of programmers that are coming out with open source code. They're going to share this. They're all learning from each other how these models work.
And that is mostly good, right? I mean, that the fact that they're sharing that, it makes making it cheaper
well, yeah, the barrier to entry for companies to have their own AI it's lowered the bar so low that there's no reason why you can't run your own AI now.
You just have to be smart enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
And from an evolutionary point of view, it's a path of least resistance to use it at this point.
Yeah.
So Janus Pro is also available to download at the Hugging Face site. Hugging Face is an AI developer platform site that you can also download the Berkeley model. So what would you search for the Berkeley model?
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I think I did send you the link. One of the links actually goes right to Hugging Face, and you can just download the models right there.
You're on your phone right now, right?
Yeah, I have my phone looking at the Dr. Future Show website, and then my iPad is actually doing the Zoom transmission. And they're both connected through Starlink here. Oh, I also noticed when I was traveling in different places, because I joined the beta program for T-Mobile and Starlink, I was seeing Starlink icon show up, and it said SOS, and it's saying that if I'm in an area without cellular connection to the internet, I can actually use these Starlink satellites with my phone. It's limited right now, but later they're going to have not only voice, but they'll have data.
Yeah, why don't
and you can do everything like a...
Yes, I could be completely excited. I wonder if you could send me a text over that system. I think that's...
Apparently you can send SOS text.
An SOS
so,
text.
In an emergency, yes. So you can send texts for emergencies right now. If you join the beta program at T-Mobile.
And that's the T-Mobile. That's right. T-Mobile's supposed to be able to connect directly, and you don't even need the latest phone in order to do that, my understanding.
That's correct, yeah. Because they're using a lower frequency, longer wavelength to cut through the clouds and to go up several hundred feet in space and to come down. So they're using 1.9 gigahertz, which is just below your Wi-Fi range.
Yeah.
And all the phone companies opted to do higher band frequencies that are really high frequencies, and they have a short distance. But if you want long distance, you have to go to a lower frequency. And because T-Mobile had bought Sprint had the magic frequency at 1.9 gigahertz, and they just bought that. And
T-Mobile has the option. That's great.
Yeah, and then Elon decided to put 1.9 gigahertz antennas on some of their satellites, and so now they're going to be ubiquitous around the world here pretty soon.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Wow. Real decent communication. And this call is a decent communication as it is, just with your phone to Costa Rica and Starlink. That's so cool. Beckman Coulter received FDA breakthrough device designation for an Alzheimer's blood test. Have you heard about that at all?
Yeah, so they can detect these beta amyloids in patients long before they have signs of Alzheimer's. So it's early detection.
So like in your 40s and you can detect something you might be getting in your 70s?
That's right. And then you could change your diet and do certain things that...
And avoid that outcome.
To avoid that, exactly. Especially for people that have the ApoE4 gene mutation. So they might be worried that they might have an inclination to have Alzheimer's later in life. So if you prepare for that, you can totally avoid that gene. And
yeah, well, it looks like it got FDA breakthrough on it too. Like the FDA has approved it. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
They're going to have versions of this also for detection of cancer in a very similar way. So they're going to be able to detect certain proteins that are emitted by cancer cells and only cancer cells. And so in the same way, you could have early detection of cancer. That's what they're hoping for.
And take the necessary lifestyle changes to avoid cancer onset later on, similar to this. It's just fascinating.
Yes.
Wow. Is this something that is very expensive? Do you know, did they have announced any costs for these tests? Or I assume if it's just a blood test, it's going to be a relatively inexpensive thing.
Yeah. And just like these COVID tests where there's home testing or things like that, right now, you could do this test, you could send it to a lab, and then they could do the analysis. But I think eventually these tests are going to be less expensive, and you could probably do them in your home also. But that's later down in the future,
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, right now it sounds a little technical. Well, here it is. It says, the XSP Dow 217 beta amyloid 1-42 plasma ratio test is powered by the Beckman Coulter's DXL 9000 immunoassay analyzer and the LumiFos Pro substrate technology, allowing for high throughput testing with unmatched precision.
Yeah. Sounds like they're using light to detect these.
LumiFos Pro substrate technology. Yeah, it won't be long before those are more readily available tools. And I know this because of the juxtaposition of the ad that they placed on this page, along with this article, for the Dwarf 3 smart telescope.
Should be coming any day now.
Which should be coming any day now. That's right. My $500 telescope that will give me access to the heavens like at an unprecedented level. And that's an amazing technology. So it's being advertised on the same page as this blood test. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Was that the telescope you were talking about a couple months ago?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not. It's a real
Kickstarter.
edgy type thing. But can you imagine just having a little gadget that automatically checks the sky, knows what stars are what, and then is able to get excellent photographs of any part of it and put it on a big screen in real time? You can watch the universe in real time on the big screen. It's got a UFO mode where it'll track anything that's moving in the sky. Like if suddenly it sees like an airplane going across the sky, if you want, it'll track it and zoom in, and you can probably even identify what kind of plane it is and where it's going in real time. So
something like this used to cost thousands of dollars.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And imagine the citizen scientist element of it, networking these $500 telescopes with each other and being able to have real-time tracking of whatever's going on in the sky, both man-made and otherwise. I'm excited to see how it does.
If they can be grouped as nodes together, they can actually do telemetry where they can do positioning and actually 3D imaging of these objects in real time. That's very interesting, the possibilities there. Even get higher resolution images, but in 3 dimensions.
Yes.
And coordinating with other people with the same satellite.
That's right. And we'll get multiple points of view on something. I mean, some of the more interesting shows on YouTube now there's one where a guy just tracks all the latest UAPs, UFOs that have been seen in the last 24 hours. And they analyze it and run it forwards and backwards and zoom in on it.
Wouldn't that be great? A bunch of these people with these telescopes, and somebody down the street or in some other state says, oh, we saw one flying in this direction. And then all your little telescopes are pointing where it should be coming.
That's right. That's right. No, anticipated.
Sort of like a space meetup.
Yes.
Yes.
The portal is about to open over at these coordinates. Watch closely. Here they come. Yeah, I think we'll see all kinds of interesting things in the sky as this technology becomes more common and proliferates. It seems like it's the future for looking at the sky. Look, I really appreciate the people that have taken their time to show me how to use a telescope and to wait in line patiently to look at Mars or Jupiter and seeing it for a few seconds before the next person sees it. And having these experiences are very special. But imagine that if that kind of experience is just more readily available all the time and doesn't require you having to learn how to use a telescope, that you can just pull it up on your flat panel in the living room and see the sky live as it is. And as things happening, people can send you the information. You'll see it too.
You could have your own YouTube channel with your telescope.
That's right. Or your group of friends that are tracking the sky.
Yeah.
Could be a new show.
So you don't have to wait in line.
No line waiting. Right. And you get and you can combine your images to create a 3-dimensional trajectory, whatever you're looking at.
Yeah.
Awesome. I believe we have one more break we're going to go to, and then we're going to end for our final stretch.
All right. Okay. I'm ready when you are. You ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, here we go.
Be right back.
Right back.
Motionless, sweet. Nothing is real. Wasting my time in the waiting line. Do you believe?
Get hooked up with affordable cannabis at the locally owned Hook Outlet. The Hook is a friendly neighborhood outlet where everybody above the age of 21 can have access to the best cannabis products for the best prices in the county. Get friendly local service and great prices in person and online at the Hook Outlets in Capitola and Watsonville. Order online at hookoutlet.com and pick up 9 to 9, 7 days a week. Get hooked up at the locally owned Hook Outlet.
Please continue to hold, and he will answer your call in the order in which it was received.
That won't happen at Low Cost Air. When you dial 800-704-1662, a real person answers and helps you find the best airfares foreign and domestic. Your choice.
Please continue to hold, and he will...
Or a real person. Low Cost Air, 800-704-1662. Low Cost Air, 800-704-1662.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Hi, folks. I've been tarred and feathered, run over by a lettuce truck, snake bit, stepped on, yelled at, hung out to dry. My truck has noises. Life can't get any worse, but I know I can get one of my things fixed, and that's my roof. I'll call Knox Roofing. I know Knox Roofing's been around longer than my ex-wife. Thanks for listening. Call Knox Roofing. You won't be disappointed. The number to call is 461-0634. Thanks, folks.
Okay, we are back. Welcome back for our final segment of the show with Bobby Wilder in Costa Rica today, and Sunny Bunny, Mrs. Future, sitting next to me here in stormy, windy, and boy, did I pick the wrong moment to go outside Boulder Creek. Man, isn't it nasty?
Did you get blown away?
No, I got super wet.
Oh, were you pissing in the wind?
No, it was pissing on me. It was really hard, too. I hadn't seen it rain this hard in a long time. I had to get out of there. Man, Shevitz. There's a new class of storm out there right now, at least for anything we've seen in the near future.
I tell you, winter, is it always winter?
No,
when it's this bad.
Well, when it's like this.
It's hard to know if it's been this bad before, right? Does it seem like there's more wind? Does it seem like there's more rain? I mean, sometimes we've had snow this time of year and we haven't felt like it was so weird.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I like the novelty of it.
Yeah.
Is it quiet down there and sunny and warm and like tropically where you
Summertime.
are, Bobby?
When we flew into San Jose, it was perfect weather. It was dry and warm, and you just wear a t-shirt and and you can be in the evening and it wasn't cold at all. But down here in the south, it's a little more humid because we're close to the water, and it's comfortably warm. I'm guessing it's probably in the 80s, low 80s.
Oh, nice.
Is my
Nice.
guess.
Yeah,
But
that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Sorry about the construction behind me. They're putting in these
It's not that
screens,
noticeable.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, that's speaking of screens, there was a question about, have you noticed the insects there and the insect bites? Has that been an issue at all for you?
No, in fact, there's no mosquitoes that I've seen. There's no insects, except I hear there's these red ants that are in the trees, and they can spit some kind of liquid on your neck, and it feels like your skin's on fire.
Oh, fire
but I
ants
haven't
of some
seen one
sort?
yet,
Wow.
but they're little tiny little red ants that
Oh,
do
man.
this.
Wow.
They have a special name for them here. They're kind of related to fire ants, but even worse. But they
Yeah.
spit out some kind of an acid that really is very irritating.
We-
but I haven't seen any.
We also got a question. Do you have a mongoose?
Yeah, I expected at least mosquitoes or something.
Mosquitoes, yeah, it's not too bad. Do you see any mongoose? I mean,
Do I have a what?
Is there a mongoose problem down there?
Mongoose.
Like they have in Hawaii, where the mongoose.
Oh,
mongooses,
that's right. Yes. No, because they don't have cobras here.
Okay, so there's no invasive species that you know of?
Yeah, but they do have some venomous snakes related to. Anyway, I haven't seen any.
Okay.
But apparently they have something like that here.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week. Well, I'm sure you'll know a lot more about the flora and fauna of that area.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures. Yeah.
There was an article this week that I was thinking of you. It was the headline, researchers just discovered an entirely new class of life living inside humans. It was an idea that there's a new type of life that initially people thought were viruses, but they turned out not to be viruses, that there's something entirely new on the level of viruses, a new class of
I
life.
had heard it. Yes, I
Are you
had
familiar
heard
with that?
something like this, but they're even more primitive than viruses, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, they're slim. Obelisks.
When
They
I
call
go,
them
when I go
obelisks.
to the links page, it goes to your
Something called obelisks.
So I'm not able to look it up right now.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can look up obelisks. Obelisks. Obelisks, a new form of life. But apparently they exist. They're on the level of viruses and bacteria and fungi. And I'm kind of curious as to how much these have been accepted by legacy medicine or whether or not this is a fringe science topic. To me, it looks like it's more than fringe. It looks like it's being accepted by more mainstream legacy medicine now.
Well, make your case. What is new about it, first of all?
Well, they don't seem to have the genetic makeup to create protein shells that RNA viruses are known for, like COVID-19, which
So they
allows the
don't have
viruses to
DNA.
live when they're outside of their cells.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't use RNA to replicate. Okay, that's one thing. What
yeah.
else?
Though they appear similar to viruses, they don't have any detectable sequences or even structural similarities to other known biological agents that they've encountered.
Huh.
So if they are viruses, they're a new kind of virus, if anything.
Well, you wonder in the world of the micro things that are less than
Obelisks.
50 micrometers, how many new things can be discovered? It's kind
I
of
know,
like
that's
insects,
what I'm wondering.
right?
They say there are 30,000 different obelisks. 30,000.
Obelisks.
10% of the human microbiome might be obelisks.
Obelisk sounds like they might just be little crystalline structures. If you think about what an obelisk is, it's a pyramid on top of a square column.
Well, they say they might include colonists of different microbiomes.
Mm-hmm.
And where they came from, they have no idea. They're not clear. They're
Well,
unsure exactly what might play host to these.
maybe this is what the nanofactories
pieces
are
of
pumping
genetic
out,
material.
and then they're just so successful that they're showing up in our biological microscopes. Maybe humans are to blame.
They're probably chemical messengers, kind of like exosomes, and they communicate between cells and cells. Is kind of like, think of it as a hormone, but it's communicating between cells. I think it's more about what's happening.
I
and that
see.
we're
So it's a
discovering
little
there's different
chemical language.
Well, they seem to include
Yes.
codes for a protein class that the researchers are now calling oblins, O-B-L-I-N-S, oblins, a new protein class.
Mm-hmm.
And that instructions for building these proteins appear to take up at least half of the genetic material found inside this new class of life.
What would be interesting is if we took AlphaFold 3 and we asked it to come up with these obelisk type materials or proteins, it could easily give us thousands of new ones that we just aren't aware of, and saying, they could have these properties.
Yeah, that's what I'm
now
thinking.
that
Like little
AlphaFold 2 had-
nanofactories are down there messing with our DNA and using these new codes to generate new proteins and new little chemicals. And then after turning the mRNA viruses loose inside of the biosystem, there's now these new subcomponents that are visible.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, it's fascinating. And I think we should keep an eye on obelisks along with our viruses. Who knows? Maybe they're related to disease or health even.
There could be both. They could be a double-edged sword. for
That's right.
sure.
That's right.
So
we just don't know.
I mean, who knows what mRNA technology is producing?
Yeah,
these
that's true too,
proteins
right?
that we haven't seen before.
Well,
You know,
certainly
especially
these
when
guys who are looking
these-
down these
when the
microscopes
spike
know a lot
protein
more
gets
than
cut
we
up.
do. Right. Yeah, I remember that when we were reading about the mRNA effects, that the very first thing it does when it enters a cell is it gets rid of all of the weak forms of RNA that aren't of use to it. And it sort of rearranges everything inside the cell for its own purposes.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here's something to add a little clarity to this. It says, the abstract says, we describe obelisks, a previously unrecognized class of viroid-like elements that we first identified in human gut metatranscriptomic data. Obelisks share several properties, apparently circular RNA, predicted rod-like secondary structures encompassing the entire genome, and open reading frames coding for a novel protein superfamily, which they call oblins. They have their own distinct phylogenetic group with no detectable sequence or structural similarity to known biological agents. And they're prevalent in the microbiome metatranscriptomes. So that's what we know.
All right, so all you genetic chefs out there looking to put new ingredients in your soup, oblins are now on your recipe
O-B-L-I-N-S.
card.
Little did you know.
I would be fearful that these could be prions at the same time. So
Prions, that's another concept
when these proteins make contact with another shaped protein, you could actually change them to replicate this protein structure just by touching it or coming next to it. And that's the concept of prions out there.
All your DNA belong to us.
Yeah, yes. So mad cow disease is a prion. And They believe Alzheimer's might also be a prion, this amyloid, the beta amyloids that we're detecting. Maybe there's something in there that's a prion-like material that's folding these beta amyloids in the brain and causing Alzheimer's. So,
in terms of analogies, maybe these are the nanobioform of carnivores. They eat the proteins that they encounter.
Well, let's see. Oblons and prions, according to Grok, they're a little different. Oblons are proteins produced by obelisks. Prions are misfolded proteins that can induce normal proteins in the brain to also misfold. So misfolded proteins are prions.
I see. So the obelisk can create the prions.
And the proteins are produced by obelisks.
Mm-hmm. So the obelisks give the instructions, and the prions are the deformed proteins that result from it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot to learn in these tiny realms.
It's a big
whole
world.
Universe.
It is. Scientists produced a new kind of light, a particle of light that simultaneously accessed 37 different dimensions.
Oh.
What does that
37
even mean?
different dimensions.
You really got to know your string theory to know what this is talking about.
They talk about prions and obelisks. No, we're going to go to the...
Is this having to do with string theory?
Well, the 37 dimensions, I think,
37
comes from
dimensions.
string theory.
It's a clash between classical and quantum mechanics. They usually don't get along too well. The classical interpretation of physics and quantum physics.
All right, so this is a virtual realm where 37 dimensions are being described, and they're being fed the equations of light. And so basically this is a virtual experiment, what light would look like if there were 37 dimensions of reality.
It takes science down that strange quantum rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And we have no idea whether or not it has any value at all in terms of seeing higher dimensional systems, finding applications for it. But it's fascinating just to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This experiment is based on a paradox. It's called the Greenberger-Horn-Zeliger paradox, GHZ paradox. And it describes how quantum theory cannot be described by local realistic descriptions.
Yeah, these are mathematical only realities.
Yeah.
We'll never see them in a microscope.
Yes, but their experiment in this case...
that's exactly like string theory. Yeah.
String theory was 11 dimensions. 11. This is 37 dimensions.
They have magic numbers. Like one of the magic numbers is 11, but there are many dimensions above that for string
now,
theory
you know
too.
37 is a magic number,
a little more
right?
complicated.
Bobby, you aware that 37 is a magic number?
No, tell me.
37 times 3 is 111.
Tell me.
I just told you.
37
times
times
3 is 111. It's a factor of 111. So all the 111s are magic numbers in themselves. So 111 divided by 37 is 3. It's a factorial of 111.
When I look at the clock and I see 111 there.
Yeah.
You're seeing 3:37 minutes.
Is that a magic moment?
Yeah, that's a magic number. That's right.
I want to understand this paradox. According to this GHZ paradox, it shows that when particles can only be influenced by proximity, they produce mathematical impossibilities. What does that mean? Influenced by proximity. A paradox can even be expressed through a calculation where 1 equals -1. This paradox is useful in showing how quantum properties cannot be described using classical means. But this new paper in Science Advances decided to see just how strange these paradoxes could get. An international team of scientists wanted to see how unclassical particles of light could get, and the results were stranger than they anticipated. So they produced photons that apparently existed in 37 dimensions. Just as you or I exist in 3 dimensions, plus the temporal dimension, these photons required 37 similar reference points. Then they believe that they're showing this experiment that quantum physics is more non-classical than many of the scientists thought from the Technical University of Denmark.
It boggles the mind.
Yeah, new scientist.
That reminds me of quantum consciousness with Stuart Hammerhoff and
does he get
Roger
into multi-dimensions like this too, like 37 dimensions? for
Well,
consciousness? Or
what they discovered was there is the tryptophan protein that makes these crystals that create these microtubules. And these microtubules, just think of like carbon nanotubes, but they're very, very small and they're in all your brain cells. There's thousands in each neuron, for
Yeah.
instance, but they're also in the other cells in your body too. But when there's a coherence of light, kind of like a laser. When they shine ultraviolet light down these tubes, they phosphoresce the tryptophan. And the tryptophan changes color and it changes from one quantum state to another. In other words, you put energy into it and the quantum shell jumps to a different position. And so it will phosphoresce, or it'll put out more energy than you put into it. So they're saying that inside these tubes are access to quantum states, parallel quantum universes, multiples, like it could be 37 like here.
Yeah. Multiple quantum universes that could be 37 each, for all we know.
Yes. So they're saying that consciousness actually doesn't reside in the brain physically. It actually resides when consciousness goes into these quantum states. And it has access to multiple universes simultaneously. And that's where our consciousness resides.
Okay. And that's where we'd have access to the cosmic search engine when you're in those states.
Yes, exactly. Or, yeah.
Yeah, you are connected to
the
universe.
collective unconscious, like Jung was talking about.
The collective unconscious, right? The noosphere.
And it all has to do with these quantums. Yeah. And it has to do where quantum entanglement, where, each of these molecules that are in these tryptophan molecules, they're in a quantum entanglement state with other with the tryptophan molecules too. And so even though, your brain is not tied to another person's brain, you could have quantum entanglement happening in these microtubules where you're tied. And so that's why thought can travel faster than light. It's happening instantaneously from one side of the universe to the other. So that's where they believe this quantum consciousness is we're tied to all these other consciousnesses out there in this quantum entanglement. And this phosphorescence luminance that's happening in this quantum state. So anyway, that's the latest in quantum consciousness.
Well, I guess if the proof is in the pudding, if you can get into states of awareness where, what does this suggest about access to information? It sounds like a big chunk of our consciousness is non-local, which means we have access to information anywhere in the universe right now. And what does it take to be in that state where we actually get information from the universe that is provable? Something sent by somebody somewhere else. What comes to mind is the stuff that Jeffrey was sending on our Intergalactic Emissaries channel about the telepathy tapes, where it seems to be there's a group of what we considered to be mentally handicapped people were actually in telepathic communication with each other, and that they had perfect telepathy between the sender and the receiver. They're able to get actual information across. And it has to do with the autistic states of consciousness where you had better telepathy than in normal states of consciousness. Some kind of link there. Do you remember that paper, Bobby? The tapes, the telepathy tapes?
And also a lot of people that are remote viewers and psychic people, they're saying that there's another level of consciousness that's going to arise here very shortly en masse to the planet. Not everybody's going to be able to handle it, but you'll start noticing you're a little more telepathic than before. And you'll be able to pick up information from other people without using your voice to communicate.
Yes, yeah.
And,
I see it as more as a telepathic process where it's both mental and there's a feeling that attunes you to someone else. When I think of other people, I think of a certain feeling associated with others as well as mental connection.
I kind of feel that these microtubules, they're like little antennas. And once we start resonating with those, we'll start picking up information from other people that are resonating at that frequency.
So it's learning how to do that then. I think Bruce Lipton talks about this as well, right? That that there are little antennas on every cell, of which the system is using to coordinate with itself and with each other, and that we're just beginning to discover what already is in operation. Yeah. Are they working on some practical experiments with the Hammeroff theory? Is there any remote viewing experiments going on that you know of or anything like that?
Yes, they have these Honorbon, this Indian.
You know, we're 44
polymath,
seconds away from the end of the show.
Okay. Well, let's get some more information for next time on that. But I'm fascinated with that, with the fact that we might be able to develop this new level of collective connectedness for real.
Yes. For real, it's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
Than we expect.
It's like feeling a collective heartbeat of humanity all at once. Something on that level, only, or probably more mentally.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for your comments in the text and the notes.
Yes.
And have a great future now, everybody. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Al.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Lots
checking
of love,
in.
Santa Cruz.
Hear from you next week?
Yes, I'll see you in San Francisco next week.
All right.
Anyway,
All right.
we'll be back.